Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today, we are bringing you 10 rules you are likely, guaranteed, totally 100% missing when you're playing Terraforming Mars, unless you're my esteemed guest, Corey Adler, who is, as far as I'm aware, the best Terraforming Mars player in the world. As far as I'm aware, you don't know what I'm aware of.
That's true.
You can't deny that. That is an accurate statement. That is 100%. When we play with Corey at our game group, one, none of us have beat them except for my lovely wife once, and by like 5 points. And two, he knows every card in the game. We'll be playing, and he'll be catching rules mistakes that I'm making while sitting on the other side of the table, or playing in another version of Terraforming Mars while he's running a game on his end of the table. I'll play down a card and he'll see the artwork or hear me name the title, and he'll make sure that I get the resources and paid the appropriate cost for whatever it was. Let's just say you've been obsessed?
Slightly.
Yeah, and
I love this game.
Here in Quackalope, we've chosen 10 games that we're going to be obsessing over. Terraforming Mars is one of those categories, and today, Corey and I are hanging out and we're filming a pile of Terraforming Mars content, gameplays, rule mistakes video like you're watching here, and strategy guides, etc., etc., etc. With that being said, my good sir, one, what's your experience with Terraforming Mars? And two, let's start going through the rules. Let's let these plebs, your words, not mine, know the mistakes that they're making.
So as far as my experience with this game, I've played it a lot.
How many games do you think?
Oh, it's got to be in the 3 digits at this point. It's definitely got to be in the triple digits at this point. I play with you guys. I play with my kids. This is one of my favorite games to play with them. Played it at conventions. I've played this a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. And on the phone. I remember specifically playing a game of Heat at the table. Not the most complex or advanced game, but we're having a lovely game night here in the Quackalope studio. And we look down and see Corey on his phone. We're like, Corey, what are you doing? He's like, don't worry about it. And we're like, no, Corey, why are you on your phone? He's like, well, I'm currently winning a game of Terraforming Mars. Everyone just acknowledged that was the correct thing for him to be doing at the moment. Heat is not worth your time. Hot take. Shall we continue?
Indeed. So the first rule that I think should be brought out is the fact that there's a difference between the regular setup for Terraforming Mars, like the first few times that you're playing the game, versus when you're playing with corporate era cards. You know, those lovely ones that have, you know, that wonderful red triangle at the bottom left corner of the card.
Those are slightly more advanced, so you mix those in as you've got more experience with the game?
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly. But as far as the regular setup goes, you know, when you're first reading the rules and you're first getting into the game, they tell you to have your money production, your steel, all these productions at 1 when you're starting the game, because that gives you a little bit of a boost as far as your engine building the first few times that you actually are playing the game.
Sheer and I were reviewing the rulebook recently, and she actually mentioned halfway through the rulebook, oh, Jesse, we're supposed to start at 1. And it wasn't until we kept reading that we realized...
Yeah, when you're playing with the corporate era, you know, more advanced cards, actually these aren't supposed to be at 1. These are all supposed to be at 0, because it's supposed to take you a little bit longer. You need to actually spend the time and resources in order to actually build up the engine.
All of the alternative things that you add in, whether it's the expansions, prelude, drafting, or other variable mechanics, are designed around the ebb and flow of the game. How long it'll take you to get something established versus not established. And this is a really core part that I think is pretty easy to overlook.
Absolutely. I've done this a couple of times, especially early on.
Part number 2.
Part number 2 is the greeneries rule.
Okay.
Which is, you know, when you build a greenery tile on the board, if you have another spot that is yours, it must be built next to it. So here, what you've just done, if you're just building it for the first time, you can put it anywhere on the board. Of course, not where an ocean tile would go,
okay,
but you can build it anywhere. But if, for example, we grab, you know, you have this city here, well,
or worse, let's say you've set a city up here.
Well, that's
let's say you've set a city right here.
Yeah, then you're limited to exactly where you can place the greeneries would have to be up there.
Which in that case involves no rewards. I don't know why you'd put a city up there, but let's say you did.
I don't know why you would either.
Let's say you did. Yeah, so this is a really easy one to overlook, because I always am just paying attention to the rewards that I'm getting on the map, and everything else can be placed almost anywhere else, with obvious restrictions like water, which I just broke. Greenery tiles have a little bit of a different rule.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. And it can be annoying if you're halfway through the game and you're looking back at the table and you're like, oh no, that whole pocket that I played out was illegal from the beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3.
Number 3 is everybody can sometimes overlook the requirements on a card. You know, for this card, for Search for Life, it might be, you know, just noticing that it's a maximum rather than a minimum. But there are times when, you know, for example, grabbing this card, you know, anti-gravity technology that requires a certain number of science tags in order to be able to play it, where somebody might get excited, have the timing to play this card, only to then realize, wait a second, I can't actually play it right now. I don't meet the requirements for it.
Yeah, I think when you're teaching the game to new players, the explaining what maximum and minimums and all of these values is an important part of the teach, but also is something they're likely going to overlook at least once when they're trying to figure out their own mechanic system. So keep an eye on the top corners as new players dive into the game. Along with that, for myself, as an experienced player, don't make that face. As a player, I will organize my hand around cards that I can currently play and cards that I can't currently play. So I might take and tuck some of these cards into the back of my pile, knowing that I have them and reviewing them every round, but not having them at the front because right now they're not viable. That helps me solve some of the confusion. You just, I believe, memorize them.
I do. I have a lot of these cards in my head, but also when I'm structuring that cards in my hand, it's usually also what I'm playing. You know, when I feel like something is going to be played, what order I prefer to play them in, and so I don't end up being able to do this kind of visual aspect, which one of my kids does actually.
Yeah.
So and that tends to work for them, so it's all good.
I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I have around this is review your program, how you want to build out your tableau, and don't make changes mid-game or mid-turn, because oftentimes that's where you'll have something like you'll get excited and you'll be like, oh, I have just enough to play this. You've already thought through it, you checked at the beginning of the round, you checked when you drafted the card, you can't play it right now, you're just ignoring the fact that you only have 6, not 7 science tags, and that's why you suddenly got excited and thought you could do something different than what you'd originally planned for.
Exactly.
Point number 4, I believe.
Point number 4 is one that I have made on multiple occasions.
Is it point number 4 or point number 3?
Well, regular setup versus corporate era setup, the greeneries rule, the requirements rule. This is number 4.
Oh, and the blue card that we miss? We haven't talked about the blue card that you often get wrong.
We haven't
Is that 4 or is that 5?
It can be 4.
Was it 4 or 5 on the list?
I don't know. I think it was 2 on this when I wrote it down here, but it's all good.
Oh, okay, you did them. We filmed this once because this is the first video Corey's done, and the first time through, I thought we were going in the exact order that he had planned. It turns out you just have them on your list, and you chose them in the order that made the most sense.
Yes.
So I'm here trying to recreate what we did in their order, and you're just like, no, we'll keep moving forward in whatever direction. We're figuring it out.
This is my first time.
Point number 3.
4.
Don't yell at me.
That's okay. You're the professional here. I'm just the amateur.
Oh, that hurts. Let's go ahead and go. I feel bad for all of us.
So, going back to the card Search for Life, this is one that actually my oldest had to correct me on fairly recently in a game that we were playing, which is that Search for Life, you can only get a maximum of 3 points for this card.
Yeah, the card itself is structured like some of the ones that score you based on conditions, like having a certain amount of icons, tokens, whether they're microbes or animals, or having a certain amount of Jovian tags. However, this is the only one that you're aware of. Let us know in the comment section down below where he's wrong on this. This is the only one that you're currently aware of that has a condition tag that gives you a maximum amount. If you have a science value on it, a science token on it, well then you get 3 points. If you have 5 of them, you still only get 3 points. So keep an eye out for Search for Life and double check the context text on each one of the cards because they'll slip little things in that are conditional rules that change or misinterpret or open up the option for misinterpretation if you've been assuming other cards relate to other cards.
Absolutely.
Such as point number 5.
Point number 5. The difference between mining area and mining rights.
Yeah, and one of these is a corporate card.
That is.
So it's a little bit more of an advanced card. So you might learn the game with mining rights in the game board, or in the game, whatever it is. I'm the professional here. Don't look at me like that.
Sure.
You might learn the game with mining rights, incorporate mining area, and just assume they both function the same because they're identical cards.
Yeah, I mean, you're putting down an identical looking, extra, extra hex.
An excavation tile, I believe, is the appropriate term.
Sure, we'll go with that. You're gaining whatever bonus, either your production for your steel or for your titanium. But the difference is that mining rights can go anywhere on the board, legally, of course, that has one of those benefits. Mining area, however, has to be adjacent to another one of your tiles.
So played down like your forests, you have to have a viable tile, although it gets even more complicated. They're both restricted to locations that would give you steel or carbon, alloy, titanium resources back.
I'm the professional for that.
And so, if you don't have a viable location that's not only giving you those resources, but also next to one of your placed tiles, you can't put this card down.
Correct.
Which, that's a crushing blow, because it looks like a tasty little cupcake. It's only 4 coin, and it gives you a really good bonus, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Point number 6.
Point number 6 is... as far as discards.
Okay. We were playing this wrong just recently.
Indeed. I think last week or 2 weeks ago or something around there.
Yeah, so if you want to go and sell some of the cards that you have in your hand like I was doing, I don't know why I had about 27 cards worth of options to sell.
He got the planner milestone, which I don't think I've ever had a game before where somebody actually got planner milestone. But first time for everything. That was the first milestone.
I bought all the draw ability I could come across. If you're selling cards, you discard them face down, not face up. Which, for you, is actually a strategic point. I don't pay attention to what people discard, but as you get more and more experienced at the game, you're keeping an eye on what's leaving play.
Yeah, I mean, exposing any kind of card that somebody has had or discarded or may have in their hand, I mean, that's information that you're giving me.
Yeah.
And that means that's a card that I may not need to be aware of. It may be a card that I don't need to keep looking for. That could really affect, my game plan, your game plan for the rest of the game.
Yeah. Point number 7.
Point number 7 is on the board here. I've had a number of occasions where somebody has built a city using the standard project and has forgotten to increase their money production.
The little brown box condition is sometimes easy to overlook, but this one in particular, because all the other productions give you the same set of things except for this 1 coin increase.
Exactly. So I'm always careful to note when playing with, especially with newer players, is whenever they've built a city using the standard project, is to say, hey, don't forget, you need to increase your money production by 1. Because especially in a game where you can come down to missing out by like 1 or 2 coins.
Yeah.
That could mean the difference in the entire game.
Well, and I think part of the issue here is that a lot of other things happen on the board when you're doing this. So I pay for this, and immediately my attention goes to grabbing a tile and figuring out the best place to put it on. Then I go to getting whatever reward it is that I got. And so that one little increase can be overlooked. Like you said, it could be critical. Point number 8.
Point number 8 involves the little lovely red production boxes.
Ooh, okay.
That, are guaranteed to make sure people don't want to play with you ever again.
Red production boxes are take that mechanics. That means you are going to be hitting someone else around the table for, in this case, their titanium production, and you're going to be gaining a little bit of your own. It's called hostile takeover for a reason.
Indeed. Except if nobody else at the table happens to have, in this case, titanium production, because then it just smacks you in the face as well.
Yeah, you just took over your dad's production engine, and it turns out he had you in the will anyway. It wasn't necessary. You would have got it when he died.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Well, we're playing through generations. Like, people are dying every time we take a turn in this game.
Wow, this turned dark.
We were going to inherit this no matter what. You didn't need to take it over. You were going to get that titanium production, period.
True. And I mean, it's not like this card becomes worthless to you. I mean, it does give, Asteroid Mining Consortium does give you a point at the end of the game anyway.
Yeah.
And it's a Jovian tag, which may interact with some of the other cards you have. But you might be thinking, I'm going to grab an extra titanium production, only to realize
this one would just raise and lower.
And then just lower.
Yeah, which is why one of the conditions of the card says you have to have titanium production yourself, because if you can't steal it from anyone else, You've got to at least pay the cost on your own board. It's first, then second.
Exactly.
Moving on down, what's point number 9?
Point number 9 is points on events.
Ooh, okay.
Here.
So the red cards in the game are going to be big astronomical events, like smashing a meteorite into the planet. There's a reason I know that. I always want to play them. And I get mad because people tell me to play them face down, and I like looking at the pretty, well, questionably pretty artwork to see
like the artwork.
How I've impacted. Historically, I haven't. The more I've played, the more it has grown on me.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear that.
However, if you play them face down, like real gamers do.
Indeed. You might miss the fact that some of these cards actually have endgame points on them.
Yeah.
Like, for example, this card, Large Convoy, gives you a whole bunch of stuff. You get 2 cards, you get to put an ocean tile down, it raises your TR, you can potentially get a lot of points for animals from it.
And so if you've played a red card, if you've played an event card that gives you points, make sure you take note of that. Make sure you score them. And if you've played a red card that takes points away, such as
Bribed committee or indentured workers.
You should probably continue to miss this rule. I mean, let's just be honest. You're not going to win if you don't. His words, not mine.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Just flipping these back over and taking a note of what points and what conditions they have, but doing so after you've done all your other scoring, or doing it first and moving them out of the way, because their tags do not contribute.
Correct.
Which is one of the reasons why you play them face down, and another one of the reasons why you might overlook the points that are actually on the cards themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, point number 10, I think.
We're at 10.
Okay.
We're at 10. And that is, the cost reductions.
I cannot get these straight.
He's gotten this wrong. With one of my kids who loves playing the cost reduction cards, I'm always double checking the math.
They're so good. Like, they're cards that you see them and you think to yourself, this just opens doors of opportunity for me, as opposed to making me build in a limited structure. So they're really attractive cards to play, especially for new players.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But then they're really hard to keep track of.
They are. I mean, some of them are easier, like anti-gravity technologies, Earth Catapult, that are just flat out across the board, -2, and then they stack, and it's easy for you to think of, well, okay, 2 and 2 is 4, okay, I have a cost reduction of 4 that I have for every single card every single time.
Oh, it is right.
Indeed.
I was thinking 7 because I was looking at that number at the time you said it, so I thought you said something along the lines of 2 and 2 is 7, and I was trying to figure out the math.
Indeed.
You're correct. It's my brain.
That's okay. If you want, you can borrow these glasses.
What about your brain?
No, that's kind of mine. Sorry.
He never shares with me.
That's true.
Okay, so how do we keep track of these? Because it's obvious we're not going to get them. And what are the conditions that you might overlook?
So oftentimes you can have these cards that give reductions, like shuttles, which will give a reduction as far as space tags.
Yeah.
Or one of these promo cards that I have here that, reduces, cards that have requirements, reduces their cost by 2.
So this card would be an 8. Or if you have Bs, this card would be reduced by potentially 6 total credits. That's a massive amount of reduction if you're watching it.
If you're paying attention to it. Because there have been so many times where I've played where somebody a few turns later has gone, wait a second, I should
have a little bit more money, and that changes the entire flow of the game, not only for them, but also for other players around the table.
And then you got to figure out what kind of mistakes you're making, which somebody may have done a video about that.
So I keep these in a unified pile. I try to keep note of them, and sometimes it's helpful if you have a reduction like this to play your turns and just announce the the reductions you do and don't have, because then other people will get used to hearing them said out loud as well.
Indeed.
It's complicated. There's a whole slew of other rules that I make, or rules mistakes that I make. This was the video that Corey put together because he is, again, the best Terraforming Mars knower I play, or the best Terraforming Mars player I know. And
it's a good thing you're a professional at this.
It is. I'm really good at a lot of things, this being one of them. And so there's a lot of points. Some of the very quick ones, I'll probably do another 10 more rules you might miss based off of the things that I've noticed myself missing all the time. But just to rattle them off because they're at the top of my head, because, again, I miss them all the time. Assuming that you can get more than 3 milestones is a very, very common mistake. Assuming that you can do this, I always forget that that's even an option until someone points it out to me, because I'm paying attention to the board that I have. I forget to factor in that I need to move my energy over into my heat zone, or that I can pay steel or titanium to build cards as long as they have those tags included in the top corner of them. And the other thing that's easy to forget, which I don't have a card that shows it off here, but a card that has a little production engine on it. You have various ways of marking these, like putting a cube on them or sliding a cube from the right to the left, but being purposeful about a system that allows you to make sure you've done whatever these do this every round cards allow you to do is important. Because if I try to do it and I just memorize it, or I just try to like not have something that I'm interacting with, whether it's a cube, whether it's a mark, whether it's tilting the card to the side, I will try to do it a second, third, or fourth time, or I will just forget that I can do it, and then it'll be a round or two and I'll be going, I should have had 3 more cards in my hand, and at that point, the whole state and nature of the game has changed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'll have my own video breaking down those rules a little bit more in depth. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. We're going to be going and playing so much Terraforming Mars. So if you're excited about this content, if you're excited about us obsessing over a board game or 10, well, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment down below on the rules that you tend to overlook and how you might mitigate them. And of course, whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Always invest in technology that allows us to catapult big rocks up into space so they can smash into the side of Mars. For some reason, theoretically, it helps.
Or drop a nuke on the poles.
Hey, listen. Warming the poles has never gone wrong before. We'll see you later. Bye.